Alright, this is 11C notes. We're going to be working today on creating the unit circle. Before we begin, you will need to have 4 different color of pens or pencils. So if you need to stop the video and go get those supplies, please do so. You also will need a copy of your unit circle, the green sheet. Alright, so first of all, let's talk about what a unit circle is. In a unit circle, the radius is always 1 and the center of the circle is at 0, 0. So that means the equation of this unit circle is going to be x squared plus y squared equals 1 squared, which is just 1. So since the radius is 1, this is going to allow us some different definitions, slightly different definitions of our trig functions. Okay, so just follow along with this circle. You don't need to recreate this, and don't draw anything on your unit circle yet. But so here we're going to make an angle in our circle. Okay, so the coordinates, so this distance is our x distance, and this distance is our y distance. Here the radius is equal to 1. So here, so this is our opposite side, that's our y distance, and this is our x. So in our unit circle, if the radius is 1, if the hypotenuse is 1, then the sine of theta is going to be opposite of our adjacent, which is y over 1, or just y. So the y coordinate, if the radius is 1, the y coordinates will give us the sine of our angle. And the reciprocal for cosecant is going to be 1 over y. Alright, cosine of theta, well, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, x over 1, so just the x. And the secant is going to be the reciprocal, 1 over x. And then tangent is going to be defined as y over x, and cotangent is x over y. So here again, remember, in the unit circle, the radius is always 1. So we're going to start putting some angles on our unit circle. The first thing we're going to look at are what we call our quadrant angles. So let's go to your unit circle. Alright, so this is on the green paper. So we start at 0 degrees, go up to 90, which is the same thing as pi over 2. We've got 180 degrees, which is the same thing as pi. 270, which is the same thing as 3 pi over 2, and then back around to 2 pi. Alright, now all of these points on our circles have coordinates. So the coordinates of this point, since the radius is 1, is 1, 0. Up here we have this coordinate is 0, 1. Then we have negative 1, 0. And finally we have 0, negative 1. This is going to allow us to find the trig functions for these quadrant angles. Alright, so I've just got the same, like in a smaller scale here. So here we want to find, now remember our sine is y, cosine is x, tangent is y over x, cosecant is 1 over y, secant is 1 over x, and cotangent is x over y. So the sine of 0 degrees is going to be the y coordinate, so the sine of 0 degrees is 0. The cosine of 0 degrees is the x coordinate, which is 1. Tangent is y over x, so 0 over 1, which is just 0. Alright, now we do the reciprocals. The reciprocal of 0 over 1 is 1 over 0, which is undefined. Alright, the reciprocal of 1 is 1. And the reciprocal of 0 over 1 for cotangent is 1 over 0, which is here again is undefined. Alright, let's move our way around our circle. So 90 degrees, same thing as pi over 2. The sine of 90 degrees is going to be the y coordinate, so 1. The cosine is 0. The tangent is going to be 1 over 0, which is undefined. The cosecant is going to be the reciprocal of 1, which is 1. The secant is going to be the reciprocal of 0, which is undefined. And finally, the cotangent of 90 degrees is going to be 0 over 1, which is just 0. Alright, so 180 degrees, pi. Alright, so the sine of pi is the y-coordinate, so it's going to be 0. Cosine of pi is the x-coordinate, 1. The tangent is going to be, negative 1. The tangent is going to be 0 over negative 1, which is 0. Alright, the reciprocal for the cosecant of pi is going to be undefined because it's 1 over 0. The secant of pi is going to be the reciprocal of negative 1, which is negative 1. And the cotangent is going to be negative 1 over 0, which here again is undefined. Alright, finally 270. 360 puts back around at 0. 270, same thing as 3 pi over 2. Okay, so the sine is the y. Sine of 270 is negative 1. Cosine of 270 is 0. Tangent is going to be negative 1 over 0, which is undefined. The cosecant is reciprocal of negative 1, so that's going to be negative 1. The secant of 270 is going to be undefined. And the cotangent is going to be the reciprocal of 0 over negative 1, or negative 1 over 0. 0 over negative 1. Which is 0. Okay. Alright, those are your quadrant angles. Now we're going to add our 3 special family members. So let's go, first of all, we're going to look at our 30-degree family. Alright, so what is 30 degrees in radians? Well, 30 degrees in radians is pi over 6. So we need to know it also in radians. Alright, let's move this up some so we can see what we're doing here. Okay, now you're just going to put this immediately on your unit circle. But let's get it set up to figure out what we're going to put on that unit circle. Alright, so remember our radius is 1. So in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the short leg is half the radius, half the hypotenuse, and the long leg is the square root of 3 over 2. So that's going to make the coordinate where a 30-degree angle hits our circle is going to be the coordinate square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. This is what you're going to have to memorize. So a 30-degree angle is going to always have that those x and y values. It might be change the sign depending on what quadrant they're in, but they're always going to have those values. All right, so let's figure out our trig functions for in the first quadrant, and then we'll talk about them for the rest of the quadrants. All right, the sine of 30 degrees is going to be the opposite over the hypotenuse, which is just going to be 1/2. So the reciprocal of that is going to be 2. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so it's going to be the square root of 3 over 2. So the secant is the reciprocal of that, and we're going to rationalize it. All right, finally, the tangent is opposite over adjacent, which simplifies to 1 over the square root of 3, and then you rationalize it, it's the square root of 3 over 3. And then the reciprocal of that, well, let's use this one here to find the reciprocal. That's just going to be the square root of 3. All right, so let's add this to our unit circle. All right, here's where you want to change your colors. I'm just going to write in pink for a 30-degree angle. All right, we're going to use this dot on our circle represent our 30-degree angle. So what we're drawing in here, let's draw the first one in here. All right, so this is 30 degrees, or pi over 6, and it's going to have the coordinates square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. All right, let's figure out where. So we want all angles that have a reference angle of 30 degrees. That's going to make up our family members. So let's figure out. So here's going to be our second one because it has a reference angle of 30 degrees. All right, what's the measurement of that? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 30s. 5 times 30 is 150, or 5 pi over 6 in radians. Now here our coordinate in our second quadrant, x is negative and y is positive. All right, let's continue counting. All right, so we were at 5, 6, 7. Here's another reference angle. So 7 times 30 is 210, or 7 pi over 6. And here both our x and y are negative. So negative square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. And then finally in our fourth quadrant, we want a reference angle of 30 degrees. All right, what were we? We're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 times 30 is 330, or 11 pi over 6. And our coordinate here is positive negative. So square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. And I'll show you how we're going to use this in class next time. All right, so those are our 30-degree family members. You got to memorize the degree measurement, the radian measurement, and the coordinates that go with it, the x and y values. All right, next family member. This is our 45 family. All right, same kind of process here. All right, we need to figure out that coordinate. What coordinate cuts off a 45-degree angle on our circle? All right, let's convert it to radians first. 45 degrees is pi over 4 radians. So unit circle again, so our radius is 1. So we divide by the square root of 2 to find the leg and rationalize that. So that's the square root of 2 over 2. And our legs are congruent. So they're both the square root of 2 over 2. So where the angle hits our circle is going to have the coordinates square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. All right, let's look at our trig functions. The sign opposite our y value is going to be the square root of 2 over 2. When we rationalize that, when we take the reciprocal of that, we're going to get the square root of 2. The cosine, same thing, because our legs are congruent. So that means the secant of 45 degrees is going to be square root of 2. All right, tangent is going to be the square root of 2 over 2 over itself, which is going to give you 1. So the reciprocal of 1 is just 1 for the cotangent. All right, let's put those on our unit circle. Here again, let's change the color that we're using. And we're going to use this point to represent our 45 degrees, halfway between 90. All right, so here's our 45-degree angle, pi over 4, and it has the coordinates square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. All right, next family member in the second quadrant has a reference angle of 45 degrees. We have 1, 2, 3 45s. So 135, or 3 pi over 4, and it has the coordinates negative, positive. All right, third quadrant, 45-degree reference angle. All right, we're at 3, 4, 5. 5 times 45 is 225. Or 5 pi over 4, and here we're negative, negative. Okay, and then our fourth, so reference angle of 45 degrees. All right, we got 5, 6, 7. So 7 times 45 is 315, or 7 pi over 4 in radians. And here we're negative, positive. I'm sorry, positive, negative. X is positive, Y is negative. All right, so those are our 45-degree families. So here again, you got, there's 3 things to memorize for each of our family members. All right, here's our last family. Let's go back to our unit circle again. All right, so our last special right triangle, based on the special right triangle, is our 60 family. All right, let's use green. All right, in our 60 family. So here again, converted to radians, 60 degrees is pi over 3 radians. In our unit circle, our radius is 1. So our short leg is 1/2, and our long leg is square root of 3 over 2. So that means that gives this point the coordinate 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. All right, sine of 60 degrees. So that's opposite. So that's the square root of 3 over 2. Cosecant is going to be the reciprocal. We're going to rationalize. Cosine of 60 degrees is 1/2. So the reciprocal secant is going to be 2. Tangent is the square root of 3 over 2 opposite over adjacent, which simplifies to the square root of 3. So cotangent is going to be the reciprocal of that, and we're going to rationalize it and get the square root of 3 over 3. Okay, let's add that to our unit circle. All right, so we're going to let this point represent our 60-degree angle. So here's our reference angle of 60 degrees. So it's 60 degrees, pi over 3, and the coordinate is 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. Notice that the 30s and 60s they're switched. The x and y values are switched. All right, so what's our second quadrant? So we want a reference angle of 60 degrees again. How many 60s do we have? 1, 2. 2 times 60 is 120, or 2 pi over 3. And the coordinates here are negative, positive. All right, third quadrant. 60-degree reference angle. All right, so we got 2, 3, 4. 4 times 60 is 240, or 4 pi over 3, and we're negative, negative. All right, final angle. 60-degree reference angle. All right, we're at 4, 4, 5. 5 times 60 is 300, or 5 pi over 3. And here again, we're positive, negative. So 1/2 negative square root of 3 over 2. All right, so there's your unit circle. And you, like I said, want to take some time here and fill out the chart at the bottom of your unit circle. We created it within the notes, but you want to have it here all in one spot so you can have one thing to hold and memorize. If you have any questions, please ask in class.